All right. So, first thing up here is we had a really important person die over the weekend. And so, starting off there, everybody thinks, of course, I'm talking about RBG, but I'm not. I'm talking about Stephen F. Cohen, the renowned Russia professor who, for decades now, has, fought the fight to have a realistic Russia policy, a realistic take on Russia. So Professor Cohen was in his 80s when he passed, and I believe, at least for the about past year of his life, has been dealing with a pretty serious form of cancer. So I don't think this was a sudden passing or anything like that, but nonetheless tragic for the anti-war movement, and of course his friends and his family. His wife is, by the way, the great Christina Vandenhoel, who was formerly an editor at the Nation, and I believe still writes at the Washington Post, if she doesn't have a role at the Nation as well. So, well, I'll let you just give your kind of first thoughts on the important person who passed here.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen has been like a really, needed and rational voice on, especially on the whole throughout this whole RussiaGate stuff the last couple of years, but also just in general on the Russia question, just, on the issue that I think is, the most important to you and I, and that is avoiding conflict with the world's second largest hydrogen bomb arsenal. So, you can't really overstate the importance of that, that cause. And Stephen was a really important voice for that, I think. And, it's unfortunate that we no longer have him in the debate, in the conversation. It's a kind of a bummer. I actually tried to interview Stephen once, but he had too much going on. He's a really busy, intellectual and commentator and stuff. He was always traveling to Russia. He was always, writing, doing TV appearances and stuff. And I guess he was just a bit too busy at the time when I was trying to interview him for a story, but it didn't work out. But
Yeah.
yeah, it really is unfortunate to, I had no idea he was even in his 80s, just based on like, his level of activity and, how he looks and sounds. I did not realize he was, at that stage of age.
Yeah, certainly. There's this little clip of him debating Matt Booth that I'm actually going to stick in the show notes page, where it's definitely a post 2016 debate just based on the subject of it. But he
Right.
absolutely owns Booth. It's fantastic. And so I will stick that in the show notes page. But in that, you look at him and he looks like he's an older man, but somebody that could be on the golf course every day, certainly. So yeah,
Right.
very very spry into his elderly years there, and just doing important work. I'm also going to link to an article by Gilbert Doctorow, who worked with Stephen Cohen on the second iteration of the Committee for East-West Affairs, which does really important work on putting out just what's going on between the U.S. and Russia. They always have stuff like on New Start, Open Skies, all the things, all the arms control that need to exist to keep us all from being vaporized in a nuclear war. That's exactly what they're covering all the time, and thankfully. We had Stephen Cohen for all these years to educate us and help us to keep up to date on all these crazy things going on. He's also done pretty regular shows on the John Bachelor show in the past. I think since 2016, really, like almost weekly or bi-weekly or something like that. So if anybody's interested, I mean, he has an amazing body of work. But those interviews were always really informative. His appearances on cable news, because hey, look, he's a distinguished professor, so they had to let this guy on TV, and he got to say some real things. I think he also did an interview with Aaron Mate in the past year and a half that was really good too. So there's a lot of work of his that you could find, but definitely check out some of it because he's a very important voice that unfortunately we no longer have.
Yeah, absolutely. And did we
So
want to get into, do we want to mark another, there was another passing earlier this month that we wanted to, I think, get into, Kevin Zeese.
right. So, unlike Professor Cohen, Kevin Zeese was a little bit more of an activist who did really important work, like staying in the Venezuelan embassy. After the U.S. recognized Juan Guaido as president, they said, "Oh, now it's your embassy." Well, that's not the way international law and stuff works. So a bunch of I'm pretty sure all left wing activists like Kevin Zeese got permission from the Venezuelan government to then go in the embassy, and they were there. And I think Kevin was one of the last people in there until the Secret Service came and rooted them out. he then spent, I think, like 6 months to a year in the middle of like a legal battle where they're trying to charge him with all kind of stuff. Of course, they eventually dropped the charges, I think, and he, doesn't face any legal repercussions. But this is a guy who wasn't, at a super advanced age. I think he was in his 60s and he died of a heart attack. Whenever I heard about it, I wonder all the extra stress that he went under the past year because of these, in a lot of ways, like fabricated charges. They were just trying to stick it to the guy who was sticking up for Maduro. Um, added to his stress level and potentially contributed to what happened. Although I'm sure Kevin understood the stress that came along with all the activism that he did throughout his life. I mean, he did a lot of stuff. Look at all the pictures people are sharing of him from after he died and stuff like that. He was just at like all these anti-war events all the time. And so, while both of these men may not be like libertarian champions or anything like thing like that, definitely important voices in the anti-war movement.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was most familiar with Kevin's work in terms of his like Venezuela activism. But if you look up, his career was a long one. He had all kinds of hand in fighting the drug war. He helped to found like five different, like important organizations in the fight against the drug war. I think he was affiliated with Normal, the marijuana legalization group. So he had a long, like, he was also a very prolific and busy activist and did a lot throughout his career. So, again, it's a real loss to no longer have him in the fight.
Yeah. In fact, at least, while I've been working at antiwar.com, we pretty like at least once a month or so had a submission from him and Margaret Flowers, who run Popular Resistance. And
Yeah.
typically we ran those pretty good articles. A lot of them detailing Kevin's, legal battle with the Venezuelan embassy fallout. So check out his archive at antiwar.com for